Welcome everybody to the wonderful Joanne Parker, Developing Your Brand Voice. Oh. When you think of your brand, do you think of logos and colours? Many businesses forget that they need to think of how their content comes across consistently to their target market, and that is your brand voice. Today, with the fabulous Joanne Parker, we are going to look at techniques to identify and develop your brand's tone of voice, how to use it to improve engagement with your target audience, and how to create consistency across all your marketing activities. So who is Joanne Parker? Joanne is a seasoned communications professional. With experience across diverse sectors, Joanne spent many years helping large corporations manage internal and external change, from mergers and acquisitions to rebranding. Her private and public sector career is marked by her strategic insight and innate ability to craft and implement impactful communications strategies. From her early days as a weekend lecturer at Open University to her role as head of communications at Interflora, Joanne has consistently delivered results. Notably, she spearheaded Interflora's executive director appointments, a testament to her persuasive prowess and strategic vision. Her tenure at Meadowhorse Shopping Centre in the north of England saw a remarkable surge in footfall, showcasing her adeptness of driving consumer engagement and brand visibility. Joanne's journey includes pivotal roles such as Regional Corporate Affairs Manager at the Environment Agency and Marketing and Communications Manager at the University of Hull. In each position, she has demonstrated her capacity to lead change initiatives, manage crises, and foster collaborative relationships with stakeholders. Currently running JP Writing Services, Joanne is not your average copywriter. Every project is approached strategically, drawing on those years of business knowledge. Her specialism lies in helping clients understand their business and place in the market, giving them clarity in their messaging and helping them communicate with maximum impact. With a master's degree in marketing from the University of Huddersfield and a BA Honours in Media Studies from the University of Stirling, Joanne's academic foundation complements her extensive professional journey. Armed with a curious mind and a knack for innovation, she thrives in dynamic team environments where her insights often lead to groundbreaking solutions. In summary, Joanne Parker is more than a communications expert. She's a catalyst for change, an advocate for your brand voice, and a trusted advisor to many businesses looking for ways to stand out in the crowd and markets. So, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the fabulous Joanne Parker. Yay! Okay, Joanne, over to you.
Oh, that was brilliant. Thank you. So, hopefully everybody can see my slide. So this is creating your brand voice. So there's going to be quite a few slides today, but hopefully you can cope with that, because I think it's going to help if I show you some examples as we go along. So what are we going to talk about today? So first thing we're going to look at is, what is your brand voice? So we understand first and foremost what we're talking about. Then we'll have a quick look at why it's important that you are able to create it. And then we're going to look at some tangible ways of how you go about doing that. And so by the time you leave today, hopefully so you've got some practical examples of how we put this into practice and how language and the words that we choose are going to help to create that very important brand identity. And then we'll have a quick summary. So what is your brand voice? Well, as Debbie said, we probably think about logo and corporate identity when we're thinking about brand. But your voice is everything that you say about yourself and your business. And it's not just the things you say in person, but that's included as well. But it's also everything that you put in writing about your business. So it's important that what we say is consistent and has a consistent tone of voice. And that's what we're going to look at today. How do we develop that? So why is it important that we develop this brand tone of voice? Well, I think it's more important than ever now, particularly if you're using anything like ChatGPT or AI to help you in your writing. As a copywriter, I would say to my clients, by all means, use something like ChatGPT to give you an idea, but make sure you put your personality into the writing. And some people might not understand what that means. So how do you put your personality into your writing? How do you make sure that any prompts that you get back from using AI does sound like your brand? And that's something that we're going to look at today. But it's more than that. It helps you stand out from the crowd. If there are 2 or 3 people in the room doing the same job as you when you go networking, what you say about yourself and how you say it is going to make a difference to how you attract your target audience. Your brand voice helps you relate to your customers. It helps people to engage with you, and it builds that all-important know, like, and trust. So that's why we want to develop the brand voice. So the next step then is, how do we go about creating it? So I want you to think briefly about when you created your own brand, the process that you went through to develop your brand and your brand identity. So you probably started with your vision. So what was the vision that you wanted to accomplish with your brand? You probably looked at your mission statement, how you were going to put that vision into practice. And then you probably considered your values as well. And that's really important. So your personal values probably impact your business values as well. And the way you created your brand identity probably is a summation of all those things. So what I'd like you to quickly do is to just pop in the chat. If I said to you, what words sum up your brand or your brand personality, what are some of the words that you would come up with? I was going to see if I can see what you come up with there. So simple and smart. Okay, that's from Peter. Any other thoughts? Any words that sum up your comprehensive? It's a good one. Logical, transparent, security, yeah. Relief and clarity. Clarity, courage, freedom, collaboration. Great. These are all good stuff. And surprisingly, you've not said the most common ones that I hear when I ask this question of my clients. I always get professional and friendly. Whenever I ask anybody, what's your brand personality? Everybody wants to be professional and friendly. And the thing is, why wouldn't you be? Who wouldn't want to be professional and friendly? So I'm really pleased to see that some of you have got different words that sum up your personality. Here are some of the other words that we might have said or that other people have said about their brand. So what if you want to be seen as fun? Quirky, that's a good one. Means that you stand out from the crowd, being a bit different. Professional. Energetic. Challenging. Young. Modern. Serious. Innovative. Helpful. Traditional. Caring. All words that could sum up your brand or anybody's brand. And the thing is to decide which one or several of these words really sum up your brand. So if you say that you are a fun, quirky brand personality, well, how do you show up on screen? So if that was me, if I'd have put myself out there and said I was young, fun and quirky, and then I turned up today and you saw me with my grey hair and my middle-aged expression, you'd probably think, not sure, does that really go together? There'd be a bit of a disconnect, wouldn't there? So if I go around thinking I'm professional, serious, and traditional, then maybe you would think, yeah, I can see that. That's kind of my impression of Joanne. So all I'm saying is that whatever brand personality you think you have, and the way you come across in your writing and in person, there needs to be no disconnect. You need to make sure that you're being consistent with that brand personality. So let's take this a little bit further then. When we're thinking about our brand and our personality and how we're going to put this into our language, it's quite fun to think about our brand in different terms. And you may have done some of this work before for your brand. So think about if your brand was a car, what kind of car would you be? And it doesn't need to be, you know, like an actual specific type, like everybody says, like, oh, I want to be a Rolls Royce. But think about it in terms of, are you a sporty car? Are you kind of a modern, sleek, fast, go-getting car? Are you a family saloon? Or are you a Beetle? Something, again, a bit more kind of young, quirky. So I hope you can see that by looking at your brand through a different lens, you get different words coming to mind, different personalities coming through of your brand. And this will all make sense as we go on in terms of how this translates into how we write about ourselves. So perhaps you want to just pop in the chat, what kind of car would you be if you were a car as your brand? Let's have a see what you think about yourselves. Have we got any takers? Reliable. Anybody got any ideas? Mercedes, very nice. Safe and comfy. So Barbara, perhaps more like you, a Volvo, a Land Rover, so a bit more adventurous, sturdy, going off-road. Maserati, oh, that's an exciting one. Chitty chitty bang bang, love that. Brilliant. Monster truck, great. And already just by saying these things, we're getting a sense, aren't we, of your personality and what do you think about it? And Rachel's never thought about it, but I know she will from now on, and she'll come up with something really good. I've no doubt about that at all. So, other ways we can think about it. Let's have a look. What about if your brand was a piece of footwear? Now, again, that's a different way of thinking about it, isn't it? And I don't necessarily mean a pair of trainers, but are you a comfy pair of shoes? Or are you, again, something more kind of stylish, quirky, upmarket, you put the labels on that you want, a pair of stilettos? So again, it's another way of thinking about your brand personality. I'd probably be a comfy pair of shoes, I think. And then when we think about this and push it a step further, often it's worth thinking about who would represent our brand. If we were to choose a personality or a celebrity to be the face of our brand, if it wasn't ourselves, who would we choose? So if you were going to perhaps make a advert or something like that, what kind of person would you choose to represent your brand? And just by seeing these two faces here, Greta Thunberg, you probably all know, is the young environmental activist, and of course, Oprah Winfrey, completely different personalities, but immediately recognizable. When you see those people, you will have your own impression of what they stand for, what kind of personality they represent. So who would be the representation of your brand? Let's have a look in the chat if you could. Oh, Bear Grylls, like that one. Branson. Any others? Any other takers? Who's going to be the face of your brand? Oh, Branson, Oprah. Oprah, lovely. Oprah's getting some good vibes there. That's great. Winston Churchill, wow, that's a serious one. Chuck Norris. So again, you can see a completely different personalities there coming through. Brilliant. So each of those people will mean something to you. If you saw a picture of Winston Churchill, you would have an understanding straight away of what you thought that person stood for, wouldn't you? In terms of kind of the caliber of the person, their charisma, how steadfast they are. And Burke says, me. Yes, of course. Ultimately, it's your brand. You'll be the face of your brand. Excuse me. So what we want to come on to now then is how we're going to put some of this into practice. But before we do so, there's one final step. And it's not just about thinking about you and your brand. It's also thinking about your target audience. So whatever you're thinking about your brand voice, it needs to resonate with your ideal audience. So if you're thinking that you're radical and quirky or aggressive, then if you're targeting a young boy who kind of sort of hangs out at McDonald's, then it's probably going to, again, not really resonate with him. So think about your target audience as well. It's got to be congruent with who you're talking to in order to it to resonate with them and for you to obviously get that engagement. So that's some of the background to why your brand voice is important and how you're going to think about putting it together. So now we're going to put this into some examples so that you can see in practice and see what we've been talking about. So, water. If you were going to buy a bottle of water, then the contents of that water, by and large, are really going to be the same, aren't they? There's not really going to be much difference. You know, a few minerals, perhaps a few vitamins here and there, but generally water is more or less water. But when you go to the supermarket or wherever you get your bottled water from, you're going to be given a range of drinks to choose from. So just looking across these brands here, what do we think they stand for? So smart water, obviously, there's a clue in the name itself, isn't it? It thinks that it's giving you something different than just your average kind of tap water. So it's going to be talking to you as if it's giving you something enhanced. So its personality is very much about standing out from the crowd by being smarter, basically. Evian, popular French brand. What do we think of if you've ever seen any of the Evian adverts? Evian's all about health and well-being and sport and good life, that kind of thing. It's also a very young brand. It used to have the babies doing the dancing, if you ever saw any of those adverts. Don't know if you know the brand Highland Spring. We have this certainly in England. And this is very much it's a Scottish brand, as you can see from the branding on the bottle there with the thistle. And it's very much a traditional brand. And it's kind of and plays on that traditional aspect of its brand. And then what about this one? Has anybody seen Liquid Death? And it looks like a beer, doesn't it? More than a water, but it's actually water that's in a can rather than a bottle. And as you can see from the typology and the words that they're using there, murder your thirst. I mean, that's completely different, isn't it, from a bottle of Evian or a bottle of Highland Spring. So if you were going into a shop and you wanted to murder your thirst, where would you be looking at? And why is a water brand being quite so aggressive, we might wonder? Well, they're all about getting rid of plastics, banning plastics, that kind of thing. So they are coming at it from a sort of environmental standpoint. But if you saw that, would it appeal to you? Would you be tempted to pick up a can of Liquid Death? Or not? Leave that to your personality. But if you were one of those brands, how you come across in writing, how you write about yourself, and how you put together your adverts and all your other marketing materials is going to be very different. So in the room, we've probably got somebody in each one of those camps. You know, I could be the Highland Spring of this world, whereas Bert could be the Liquid Death, or Debbie could be Evian.
Right. That's right.
No judgment, just a passing comment. So let's see how this would translate into the way that we write then. So some very simple things to start with. When you're writing to your customers or greeting people on your website, what kind of greeting do you give them? So just think about it from the words that we saw earlier. So good morning, that would probably be me, very kind of traditional, serious, you know. I might go as far as saying hello if I was pushed, but I would say hi to my friends, certainly. I put good day in there just because I was trying to be international. Don't know if you ever say that at all, but you might do. But then thinking about the kind of more younger ways of saying things. So what's up, yo, and 100 and other ones, different ways. So what way do you greet your customers? Again, it's going to be to do with your personality, your language style, what you favor. And there are ways to make this more your own as well. There's a lady who writes to me, she's from a company called the Humane Marketing Society. I don't know if anybody of you know her at all. And she always starts her emails with dear ones, which is, you know, something she's made her own. A client of mine has a phrase where she says, hello, superstars. And that's very much her brand personality. She's very friendly, she's very caring, very empathetic, and she calls other people that she works with superstars. And there's a lady on LinkedIn, Sarah Clay, I don't know if you know Sarah at all, and she always starts everything with, hey, hey, and that's kind of her little trademark. So just a simple thing like a greeting can make a difference between how you express your personality. Next thing to think about is how you use language. And one of the ways that you can describe how you use language in a formal or casual sense is what we call contractions. So when you're writing, do you write out words in full? Is it not? Would you contract it to isn't it? Or would you go as far as, again, what the youth, I would say, such as innate? And obviously that is a very kind of a modern, young way of saying things. And you might, again, have your own way of doing things. But how you write should be, again, consistent with how you speak. So I'm going to show some examples now of how we would put this in text in terms of a serious piece of a serious paragraph, and just see if you relate to how I've expressed these. So what I've done is I've got a piece of text and then I've tried to relate it to how I think those different water brands would write the same piece of text. So let's have a look what you think. So in the first piece, this is kind of your standard formal piece of text. So Australia's economy has experienced steady growth over the past decade, buoyed by robust exports and a resilient financial sector. Government policies aimed at fostering innovation and entrepreneurship have contributed to this positive trend. So I might write that. Somebody who's in a serious newspaper might write that. You might hear that coming across from any of the media. So this is how I've interpreted that Smart Water would say it. So it's a variation on the theme. It's softening some of the language a little bit, but it's still keeping it fairly formal. Australia's economy has been going pretty good lately. We've been exporting heaps and our banks are holding up well. The government's been all about pushing new ideas and startups, which has helped. So it's obviously a bit more loose, it's a bit more friendly. We've got the we in there instead of it being sort of third party.
It also sounds a little uneducated.
Right, thank you.
It's ironic that Smart Water would say going pretty good lately when it should be pretty well lately. But anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a good, very good point. Thank you. Yep. So this is variations on a theme, and
Yeah.
you're quite right, might not have got it exactly right, but it's just trying to show different ways of using language. But yeah, I think you're quite right that there's different ways of doing it. Let's have a look at what you think of these. So Evian, again, I've got it as pretty well lately on this one, with export and financial stuff, keeping things ticking over. The government's been trying out different ideas to help businesses grow, but there's always a bit of uncertainty. So again, it's that kind of trying to make it friendly and a bit younger. And then we've got the likes of Liquid Death. All right, so Australia's economy, it's been like a roller coaster on steroids lately. We're riding this crazy train of exports and financial shenanigans, thanks to whatever policies those politicians are cooking up. So that's trying to be a bit more radical, a bit more out there, a bit more kind of punchy. So that's just to show you how the same piece of text can be worked in different ways. And the thing is to work out how you are going to use your language and how it's going to come across. So once you've got all your brand identity and your brand words and your personality sorted out, where are you going to put it? So the main thing is to use your brand voice on your website. That's going to be your number one. So make sure that when somebody comes to your website, they immediately know your personality and understand that brand tone of voice. But it's also important to then carry that across into your social media, into your newsletters, and also, as I said, when you go networking. So there's that consistency. So as we mentioned about the greetings, that's going to come across in your newsletters, on your networking. And when you turn up and talk in person or give a speech, again, the language that you're using wants to be consistent with that personality that you've developed online. But there are also some other places where you might kind of forget that you can use that personality. So think about when you're downloading something. If you've got something on your website that's available for somebody to download, how do you point that out to them? You might have a simple button that says click here. You might have something that says download your guide. But again, think about saying it in a different way that's in keeping with your brand personality. So you might say something like, give me my stuff, or don't keep me waiting, or 101 other ways of saying the same thing. But my prompt here is really just to think about those unexpected places where you might not have thought about just making sure your personality is coming through consistently. Another one is a 404 error page. So if you click on a web link and the page isn't there, then you can put a message up for your customer. And again, the formal version would be something like, we apologize, but that page is not available at the moment. If you kind of use a little bit more humor, you could get into, oops, sorry, looks like something's gone wrong. Or you could go a bit further again. I've seen ones where it said things like, oh, looks like the dog's run off with that. Again, it's just keeping it in consistent with your brand tone of voice, so that if you've got humor running through your website, you can certainly use it in a place like this as well. And
Like, I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, exactly. And humor's an interesting one for your brand personality, because humor's very personal, isn't it? And it can be difficult. If you are somebody that likes to tell jokes, that likes to express humor, then that's great if it comes through all the things that you're doing. If you're somebody who generally comes across as serious, then when you are humorous, it's got to be, again, in keeping with your brand personality. Otherwise, it can jar with your audience. So if you had a very serious traditional website and then suddenly a quirky 404 page, then it might kind of make people think, that seems a bit odd. So try and keep it consistent. So let's have a summary then of what we've done today. So brand voice is the impression you give with everything you say, verbally and in writing. It's got to support your brand personality, and it's got to resonate with those customers. And the whole point of having it is that it helps you stand out from the crowd and makes people engage with you. And more than anything, the key thing is consistency. So please make sure that you're being consistent. So I'm going to stop sharing at that point and see if you've got any questions. I'd be happy to answer. And I hope you found that useful.
Joanne, that was amazing and really, really thought-provoking as well. As we think of our own businesses, as we think of, you know, where we use our branding, and as you say, on websites, on social media, on every part of our business. You know, when we do network and when we do things as well. Guys, any questions at all for Joanne? Go for it.
Mm-hmm.
That was so good. No one has any questions.
Well, I think of how I would say things, but I'm thinking about my demographic. I believe, like, I'm selling business software, and it looks like a lot of my demographics from Google Analytics are put in between 25 and 45. And I'm thinking, like, you know, 10 years beyond that, a little more, not formal, but friendly, but I don't know that I'm really speaking or resonating with the 25 to 45 range. They might say yo or whatever. And so how would I figure that out, I guess? What would I just, I think, where would I go to look to get a sense of that vernacular, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you could think about where those groups are hanging out, and perhaps go and join them. I don't know if you're on TikTok or anything like that. Are you on the same platforms as that kind of audience?
A lot of them, yeah. I don't do a lot with TikTok, but I do see it. You know, I look at them, you know, from time to time. But most of those things are people doing extreme, well, shenanigans, according to one of the words you used in your, you know. So I'm not in the crowd that's going to ride a shopping cart down a flight of stairs. So, you know, anyway, but just like how do they greet? How do they greet each other? You know, even, and it's interesting. We call it the button. You know, like what do you say on the button? It's just because you used to just say submit. Like, that's old computer language. Now it's like, it's almost like a kinky submit to something, which is even worse. So you don't want to use submit. Like, I'm not submitting to you, you know? But yeah, give it to me, you know, kind of a thing.
Where do you hang out, Burke?
It's only doing research.
Cross my path in strange ways, and I just can't help it. You know what to say.
But I like what Joanne said there, you know, where do your target market hang out? So hang out there and actually see the type of language that they're using. And we have something that generations, you know, beforehand haven't had. You know, we've got social media. You know, we can actually go onto and have a look where they had to do research, you know, going around talking to people and finding out in much harder ways. So I think the first thing is, and Joanne, please tell me if there's other ways too, but the first way is to, where do your target market hang out?
Absolutely, yeah. It's very, very much finding that. And it might be a physical place. You might be able to go, you know, to a local place around your area and, you know, actually speak to some people. But there's online as well, obviously. And kids, isn't it? You know, it's parents of people who are that age as well, you know, talking to them and seeing what they kind of say and how they talk.
Well, the challenge also is talking to the whole spectrum with the same language. You know, so I'm talking people between 25 and 65, and there's a broad range of how they're going to say things, but what could I say that would be cross all those, like, you know, hey dude, you know, which would be one version of that, but
would Hey Dude really cut with your products when it comes to even 30-year-olds? No. So maybe it's a mixture between, you know, your product's target market and your target market, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you've got to pick one, haven't you, really? Pick that avatar, as we call it, that ideal client, and, you know, just talk to that one person. And then if it resonates with other people, you know, they'll come towards you anyway. But it's got to be right for you, because if you start saying, hey, dude, and all that, and, you know, online, and it's not really you, you haven't really, you know, got your heart and soul in it, then you're not going to come through as authentic.
Right. So would you say authenticity? I mean, I guess, yeah, I was gonna, it's a stupid question, I guess, as I listen to myself ask it.
No
It's like
such
really
thing.
authenticity trumps, trying to get the language right. It
Yeah,
would
I think
resonate better if I'm being authentic coming from who I am versus
yes.
trying to sound like, saying it the right way that somebody's going to want to hear it.
I think you can probably find a nice middle ground. You know, if you normally say, hello, good morning, how are you? Then you might, you know, free that up a little bit and go, hi, how are you doing? And you will still be okay with that. You'll cope with that. You know, it won't feel
Yeah.
like too wild. But if you start going, yo, man, you know, how's
What's
it hanging?
up? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Then,
You didn't have "what's up" in there is one of your openings, though. Anyway.
probably not going to feel comfortable. So yeah, find that middle ground.
So Joanne, that's what I wanted to ask. How do you find that middle ground? So I work with senior managers, executives. So my tone is always professional. The age group is usually 35 to 50. So I'm not going to do the slang or the young kids language. But you don't always want to come across as dear sir or be very professional. And I'm not sure, how do I get that balance right where I'm not sounding like a really boring old person, where I can introduce, just something different,
Yeah.
which won't come across as unprofessional.
I think that's that's fine, because it's about, you won't be unprofessional because, you know, clearly you are being a professional person in how you deal with them. It's just really, once you get to know somebody, it's then being able to talk to them as Bill, Fred, June, Betty, whoever they are, rather than, you know, dear sir or Mr., Mrs., whoever. And then it's being able to just talk about yourself a little bit more. So, you know, you might be able to just introduce I was away with the family at the weekend, you know, had a lovely time with the dogs, and we went out into the countryside and we did this, you know, this, that, and the other. So you're showing a little bit of your personality in that way, but you're still keeping it professional. And then you can bring it back into your writing with a, you know, kind of after a hard day in the office, you know, I love to go out and get some fresh air. What do you do? Or what did you do at the weekend? You know, just start to introduce some kind of very subtle personality to it, and let people get an insight into you, what you like doing, who you are away from the desk, as it were. And then it just gives you a bit of a conversation starter then. And if people get to know that, you know, you're an animal lover, or you like skiing, or whatever it is that you do, you know, it just gives them something to sort of talk to you about. And it's just a case of then just gradually, you know, bringing the barriers down a little bit.
So when I do posts on LinkedIn or I write articles, are you suggesting then that all my posts are very professional? They're all to the point about something. So you're saying bring in a bit more about who I am into those posts.
Yes.
Okay,
doesn't have to be everyone, but just so there's like a nice mix, so people start to see there's more to you than just the professional bit. Sort of like with the kind of posts I put out, it's very easy to do the, you know, the telling, the sharing, the educational piece. So a lot of my posts are, you know, how to write this, how to do that. And every now and again, it's just nice to mix it up and go, you know, I put the pen down at the weekend and I went out and walked the dog, you know, or is anybody else fed up with all this rain? You know, whatever it is, they can just start to introduce a little bit of personality, just to give people a peek behind that curtain. And then it builds the engagement. And you'll find, you know, as soon as you put a picture of you and the dog up there, you'll have 50,000 more views than ever you did on the one about how to write great copy. You know, it's always the way. But yeah, just start to give people a little peek behind that curtain.
Thank you. I think that's what I've actually been missing. Perfect. Because all my posts are very how to.
Yes.
How to do this, how to do that. And you're quite right. I haven't included anything authentic or about me. I will try.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
just start to do that. Yeah, that'd be good. Oh, look, there's a dog. Who'd have thought?
Very cute, very cute. Any other questions, guys?
Did it make sense? Resonate with you? You
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, oops, can you guys hear me? Sorry.
Hello,
Finally parked
Anne.
the car. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to say, Joanne, that was really great. I love the exercises. They were awesome. It really got me kind of like thinking and looking at how I'm doing things and consistency and stuff like that. I noticed that where my heart's really into something, that just shows up consistently, but I kind of didn't mean it. It was just like that. So it was good affirmation, good confirmation for me. Thank you so much. Yeah. I'll mute myself out. I'm a bit noisy here.
No, that's okay. Thanks for that, Anne. That was really lovely. Anyone else want to add anything? I do have over here, Faye does in just a moment. Alan said everything has to be consistent, and Rachel said great presentation and a lot of food for thought. Faye, over to you.
Thank you, Joanne. It was food for thought. I err on the side of a little more casual. I always say hello. I really don't want to say dear this or dear that. So I say hello or hi. And yeah, adding a bit of personality is adding a bit of who you are so that people get to know you better. And that's what it's all about, people getting to know, like, and trust you.
Definitely.
So that they can see you and not just what you do, because people do business with people, not what you sell. Yeah.
Yeah, quite right.
Mm.
It's easy one to fall into, isn't it? Like I say, not showing your personality sometimes. But there's different ways of doing it. And say if you do like humor, then you can bring humor into it. I always think that's a tricky one because you never know. Everybody's different, aren't they? What's funny to one person, not necessarily to another. So you have to be a little bit careful. But if that's who you are, then yeah, go for it.
Any other questions, guys? Joanne, would you like to talk about your call to action, which I have just put into the chat for everybody?
Yes, thank you. So there's a blog that the link will take you to, which just kind of goes over some of the points we've made today. And there's also a template attached at the end of the blog, which is just like a blank, almost worksheet checklist. So it'll help you just to go through the exercises we've done today, thinking about your mission, your vision, your personality, and then thinking about some of the words and how you translate that personality into the writing. So hopefully that'll help you to put what we've said today into practice.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Joanne. That was absolutely fabulous. And again, a lot of food for thought. So just to recap just a little bit in regards to consistency is also important, and have a look at each of your how do I call it? Your on the out I lost for words. Have a look at each of your social media, each of the places you put content. That's what I want to say. Each of the places you put content, your website, your social media, your newsletters, when you're networking, exactly what Joanne was saying. Are you consistent? Do you need to change anything? Are you actually talking to your actual target market? Do you have a few different target markets? Do you need to talk to each of them differently? So real food for thought in each of those areas. And if you would like to catch up with Joanne, please do. The details are on empowermentpoint.com, and you can book a time with her and speak to her. And she does amazing things when it comes to your branding and your services as well. So feel free to catch up with Joanne too. And on that link, if you are watching the replay, ladies and gentlemen, I will put that link in there as well. You'll be able to get that too. So guys, thank you so much for coming. Joanne, thank you for an amazing session. That was really, really great, and great to have earlier in the year too, and a lot of food for thought there. And guys, Joanne, if you could stay for a moment, guys, Thank you so much again for coming. Have the most beautiful week. Yes, that was absolutely wonderful. Or the hands. Have the most beautiful week. And I look forward to catching up with you soon. Thanks, guys. See you later. Bye.